Good?
Yeah, let's do this. All right. Hi, guys. Welcome to episode 6 of Always Making here at the Steadfast Rebel studio. I don't know. I started that very weird. We're going to run with it, guys. We are having another great guest with us. We have Ali. Alejandra from Graveyard Witch. Jewelry, accessories, all kinds of
Yeah, so it started as jewelry, so now I just call it, like, after I registered, the official name is accessories.
Cool.
Because, like, I started with jewelry, but I do a lot of other things now.
Yes.
So we start with most of the guests that come on here about how we first met you guys. And I think it was your husband I met first because he walked by our booth. We had some, like, nerd patches up on our stuff that we were selling, and he was super stoked. And then you came walking up behind him and just had that conversation. That was over a year ago at the SLC Punk Flea show that we first met. And I think that was also
ours
first show, but I think was it your first show? July or
no? Actually, I've been doing the punk rock flea market since 2019.
Oh, okay.
So I've been doing it for a while with them. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think they started that year or maybe late 2018. And I started with them when we were only like just a few people having tables there, and it was a little bit more informal. Well, it's still informal, but it was even more informal because like it was like vendors, like people who were like doing their own craft, but people who also wanted to sell their used clothes or things or vinyls, and people who don't do it as a business, like, oh, I have this extra stuff that I want to, maybe sell because I don't need it, but I don't want to throw it away. And that was held at the Beehive.
Okay.
And then it grew so much that we didn't fit there anymore.
Yeah, and it seems like it's continuing to grow, and the community, we really do love everybody there. It's been really like welcoming and very like
supportive
warming and supportive to be part of that whole community there, and we really do appreciate what is getting put on there. And this past year, you branched out a little bit. I know we had a conversation at one of our other shows that you actually were at with us as well, that you're kind of branching out into new venues, new shows, and trying to expand what you're doing. But before we even get into that, let's talk about how it all got started. Where did Graveyard Witch Accessories start from?
Yeah, so I think it was 2018. Yeah, 2018. That's when I started. I didn't do it, I didn't give it much time. It was like a hobby type of thing. And it started because I was wearing a lot of things that I had already made. So I started with beads, with charms, altering things, like modifying things that I already had, that I didn't like what they looked like, but I saw potential in them. And a lot of people, like a lot of my friends would be like, oh, that looks cool. I was like, oh yeah, I kind of put it together with this and this and that. And they're like, okay, can you make me one? So I would, and then they would post pictures online. And like, okay, my friend asked me where I got it, and I told them that it was from you. So like, how can they get one from you? And I was like, okay, I'll have to create an Etsy account so they can buy it. And that's what I did. So that's one of the things that I did at the beginning. And it wasn't really putting things out for people to buy. On Etsy was like, somebody contacted me, I put it there just so that they could have that ease of buying through a platform. Like maybe they don't know me, their friend knows me, but they have the security there that I'm buying from a website that it's known. I am going to get my item, and if I don't get it, I can claim there. I can open up a claim. So that's why I started doing it there. And another place where I started selling was at Iconoclad.
Okay.
So at Iconoclad, I would always go there and buy when they only had one location. And I would talk to all the people that would work there, and they're like, oh, what you're wearing looks cute. And I was like, oh yeah, I made it. And then they're like, oh, we sell local artist stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I didn't think much about it, and they're like, the next time I would go and they talked to me again, and I was like, okay,
hint.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, let me see, like, okay, I'll apply and do it. And then I started doing that. So mainly the two biggest pushes that I had, the two places that helped me the most get started were the Punk Rock Flea Market and Iconoclad.
Yeah. For you guys
Very
who
cool.
are not local to the area, Iconoclad is like an upcycle thrift store consignment.
Yeah, kind of a unique boutique.
Kind of thing. Are they only based out of Utah?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's 5 locations now?
No,
in
they
the
have
Dallas?
2 locations.
Oh, 2 locations.
They only have 2 locations. They have one in downtown, and that one's smaller. That's where they have all their artist stuff. They have local artist items that they sell. They have new clothes, and they have consignment store. And then on State Street, well, for local people.
It's in Murray, right?
No, it's on State.
Oh, did that one move?
You know where
That's a different one. You're thinking
I'm thinking something else. Damn.
it's where the Sears used to be, you know, kind of like half block from there, and that one's really big. It has a lot of things.
That's a new one, yeah.
Those are the 2 main places where I started selling. I did do a lot of other things, like where, you know, like at the beginning it was like they weren't very consistent, but we're pretty good for just like practice. Kind of getting together at the park, all the local goths, and, you know, selling your used stuff. That's where I also started doing it, because at the beginning it was like somebody's asking me to do something for them, and I was like, okay, if I buy one piece, it's going to cost me a lot, and I have to charge out for it a lot. So it's okay, I'm gonna get a wholesale for this specific charm, for these specific beads. And I was like, okay, I already sold 1 or 2 for the people that asked me to do it. What am I going to do with the rest? I might as well, you know, make some stuff and then go to those specific swap meets and you know, those little gatherings where people are selling or trading stuff.
Yeah.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah, and so now we're 2018, we're now 2023, where we're talking over 5 years now. We're going into 6th year of doing this. You've expanded what you're doing. You're growing a lot. We see you all over the place on your social media. You're doing all kinds of shows. How has that journey kind of been for you?
So it has been really slow, and that has been a deliberate decision.
Yeah.
When I started in 2018, I was working full time. I was going to school full time, and I was doing this for fun. Then people were asking more and more for it, and I was doing bigger festivals, just a few. For a few years I did that. And the pandemic happened. I wasn't doing much either. I was just doing a few sales online. And I think it was 2019, end of 2019 or beginning of 2020. I don't remember quite. I had to fulfill an art credit at Slick, so at the Slick Community College, and I decided to take silversmithing. I had met other local vendors that had taken the class there, and they recommended it. They said, okay, you are making jewelry already with beads and charms and things that you find. Why don't you try seeing if you like doing silversmithing as well? So, which I did. I took it as an art credit. And after that, I kept taking it, like every semester, to just, you know, get better at it. And now like you were saying, I branch out for a lot of things. I do things with beads. I do things with charms. I do custom pieces for silversmithing. With silversmithing, I work with sterling silver, bronze, copper. And I do have a few pieces that I make myself, like they're very unique, one of a kind. But I still want to keep price range so that I can make it affordable for everybody. So that's why I keep doing the things with the beads, the things with the charms. And I didn't get serious into doing more markets and trying to kind of grow my business until last year, when I realized I actually do really like doing this. I think I want to do it as a business. And yes, I'm going to school to get my degree in accounting and finance, but, you know, I think it works, because if I have my own business, I can use my degree with my business. So that's when I started doing more things. Last year I started having more markets, doing other things, like you said. I do things with beads, charms, silversmithing. I do harnesses. I decorate sunglasses that match your earrings so that you can have an outfit all put together.
Yeah, you have a wide variety of stuff whenever we see your booth set up. And there's, again, you do a very good job of keeping that scale of, hey, I have some things that everyone can wear. And then you have those beautiful, unique one-off pieces that are a little bit higher in price. And, I mean, as an artist, that's a great thing to have, because I like having pieces that we can kind of give to people at a low price so that they can enjoy our art just as much as the people who are spending a couple $100s on something as well, because we all appreciate art. And sometimes I get it. I was a starving college student that couldn't afford something. And now that I can get these like pieces from other artists and put them on my wall, I feel super excited to have all as much as I can. And it's great that you're keeping that perspective for everybody. Is there a material that you love using more than others?
I love doing silversmithing.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not delicate. I mean, it is delicate, but like the process is not. Because if you mess up, you can just melt it. You can just use it. If you break, if you break a glass bead, it's hard. Like, what are you gonna do?
It's done, yeah.
If you break, I don't know, like I can't think of anything. Like if I would be doing, I don't know, pottery or anything like that. What am I gonna do with that? But with silversmithing, I can just melt it and I can just start again.
So for people who are listening, watching this. Explain silversmithing a little bit so that we can kind of understand. I have an idea, but I'm still completely clueless. Yeah.
So with silversmithing, it's pretty much taking raw materials, copper, bronze, sterling silver, and you can give it a shape. You can shape it. You can solder one on top of each other. You can do a lot of things with it. There are times when you can have like a sheet of silver and you can give it the shape that you want. You can have a ring band and then you can engrave something in it. And I like that. I mean, silver, it is more delicate than other materials. It melts at a lower point, so you have to be careful with it. But I like this, the aspect that I like is that I can use a torch. I like the fire. I like doing the fire, and then like seeing how the metal changes. Like you see the chemical reactions, and you have to understand as well what the chemical reaction is. Like when I took the class at Slick, the professor did a thorough job explaining, okay, why you can't do this. What does silver 925 mean? How do you solder something? So that's what I really like about that aspect, and that you can actually make whatever you want. You can make it your own style.
It's kind of science and art together.
Yeah, it is. And like when you're soldering something, it burns. You get fire scale, and then you put it in an acid, and the acid gets rid of it. So that's really cool, I think.
Now, sorry.
No, that's okay.
For the silver solder, like it seems like the silversmithing class is a very unique class that a lot of colleges, I don't know, offer. Is that
they don't? So for example, right now I still go to Slick and I already graduated, but I'm attending also Westminster, and I'm doing both schools because I like going and taking that art class over and over again.
Let's say, how many times have you taken the class at this point?
So like 5, because 5. When I took it in 2020. I took it one time in that year, but because of the pandemic, they didn't offer it.
Yeah, okay.
And then I started taking it again last year, consistently. And then right now, I'm taking it again. Mm-hmm.
So for everyone out there, Slick is Salt Lake Community College.
Yes.
And no, you're totally fine.
Just for non-locals.
Yeah, for non-locals knowing. But that's really cool that they are offering such a unique class because, I mean, would you have still been able to pursue this silversmithing if you didn't really have the opportunity with the class?
No, and to be honest, like if you look at the prices, it is pretty expensive to do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because you have to provide the material yourself, the silver, and silver prices change.
Not cheap, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They change. Like for example, I think it was 2 months ago, it was like about $22, and I think now it's about $25 per ounce.
Per ounce, yeah. Okay.
And it changes. So, and I never consider myself very artistic. And I know people tell me, but you're making all these things, but I can't draw. So
I mean, not all artists are drawers. Like that's the reality. Some artists.
No, I felt the same way for a long time. I was like, I'm not an artist. I don't do well at drawing or painting. I don't think I can do
silversmithing like you do. That is an art form in itself. Yeah.
No, yeah, and that's what I like. And I was like, okay, somebody told me about it, and I was like, okay, I'm making jewelry already. Why don't I give it a try? Like, I need to fill my art credit, and this is something that I think would be fun. And then I took it, and I really liked it. And I like that the Salt Community College, you have the opportunity to take it with different professors. There's 3 professors there that they have different ways of teaching. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, the first time I took it, my professor didn't care what I made. He was very, very strict about how perfect I would make something.
Yeah.
So because of that, I was able to get to a point where I was making things. I was very precise with what I was making. I was trying to make it as perfect as I could. Then the next professor that I took it with, I would show him something that I made, And he's like, oh, it looks great. I was like, well, don't you see that you can see the solder there? And he's like, well, that gives it character, makes it more special. And then another professor is like, she cared a lot about the design. She's like, okay, you know how to do this. You know how to do coffin rings. That's what I do. Yeah. Coffin shape rings. You know how to do this. Do something else that kind of like forces you to learn to learn new techniques, to
be a little uncomfortable. Yeah.
To see what you can actually do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's such a great tip to look at community colleges, because even if, let's say, your local community college doesn't have silversmithing, they might have something else that you're interested in that could be a hobby or could turn into a business or just enhance your skills no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, no, exactly what you're saying. So, for example, I have a classmate, and it's this lady. She's like 70 years old, and she's taking silversmithing, and her husband's taking woodwork. He makes things with, like, he makes tables. He makes he made her entire shop, like her jewelry shop at home, because he learned how to make a lot of the tools and make a table and all of that.
So for like at home use of like silversmithing, is it just like a torch, and like do you have a little anvil? Do you have like molds, like how, or is it just like kind of melt and shape, like how, or heat?
I don't have a studio at home. I do everything. It's like
okay, so you utilize the school's tools and everything that way to do that. So and then at home you're doing your other jewelry stuff. Okay. And so what are some of the other materials you're doing when not doing the silversmithing? What are some of those other materials that you're utilizing?
So for at home, I use very basic stuff that everybody can get. So pliers, cutters, what else? Glue, that kind of thing. But for my silversmithing things, I did get a lot of tools custom made. Yeah. So I have gotten stamps made specifically because there are not many stamps that
have
like
your style.
Have the style, or like plates. So a lot of the for example, the bracelets that you see that have like a pattern, those are, if they're in the cheaper end, they are made with a plate, an iron plate that has a pattern already. So you put the iron plate and the silver plate, you put it together and you put it through two rolls, and it goes through there and it imprints the design. That way you don't have to really carve it by hand, and you can make it more affordable, and you can produce it, and it doesn't have to be the same. You can have the same design, the same imprint, but with something else added to it. So it makes it more affordable for people, and it makes it easier for you to make it. So those kind of tools, I do get them custom made.
And those are your personal, and that's like what you have available to like make your own personal touch to everything.
Yeah. Very that's cool. What I do. And a lot of people, like when I do silversmithing, it's like they're like, oh, how do you do this? And I'm like, oh, I use this. You're welcome to use it if you want.
That's fun that you can now share your knowledge.
Well, a lot of people don't want to invest because they don't know really if they're going to like it. So I'm happy to let them use it and see, okay, if you like it, you like stamping, you can, get your own or custom make your own, or just buy the more common ones that you can find at Michael's or any other place like that, craft shop.
Yeah, it is investment for sure, especially, and it is a scary thought, like, oh, I'm going to spend hundreds of dollars sometimes on some of these things. I have a few blacksmith friends that, like, their individual stamps for their, like, maker's mark can be $200-$300, and, like, hey, is it really going to be a return on my investment? And sometimes you got to just take that leap of faith with it. So, but it's very cool to hear that, like, the college is offering opportunities for you to learn and grow and, like, explore that passion that you've come to find with silversmithing, and just starting from, I guess, hobby shop jewelry making, I guess, is the way to start. And then you kind of just found that next step and how to grow that business. What are some of those things, like, going forward you want to learn to maybe continue the growth of your company?
I think when it comes to the silversmithing aspect, I tend to make a lot of bold things, like bigger things with a lot of stones. Maybe trying to challenge myself and making more delicate stuff, like little things, and trying to learn other techniques when it comes to silversmithing.
The dog. So for those who aren't familiar, you do, I feel like, have a very specific style.
Yes.
How would you describe your style, and how did you get into that style?
So for my style, I normally, when I have to describe what I make, I say that I make Gothic and alternative jewelry and accessories, because mostly it is jewelry. Sometimes. So sorry. He's
The dog came down to the studio.
For the style, I would describe it as Gothic and alternative. Some of the stuff can be a little bit more punk or metal. I sometimes make chokers with spikes. But it is very influenced by Gothic aesthetic, by the Gothic aesthetic, and by horror movies a lot. For example, I recently made a necklace with a red skull. I picked up the red skull. I bought it already carved. It's a stone. And I decided to make something around it. And when I just saw the piece, it reminded me, for example, of the movie The Phantom of the Opera, the black and white one, when he's on the stairs and then he looks and then he has a skull mask. So it's like, okay, that's what I'm thinking about. And I'm thinking black and white. And then, I don't know, when I think about black and white movies, I feel like they're done at night. I don't know. Just what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So I decided to add moons to that, like the sequence of the moon, the phases of the moon, and a moth to it. So I don't know, that's where I mostly get that the aesthetic. It comes from the Gothic and the horror movies.
Yes.
What is your process when, like, you find that inspiration, you find that piece you're going to start building? What's that process? Is it like sketch out the design? Is it then kind of just start finding materials and start putting them together? And then how long does that process usually take to get to the final piece?
You know what? I tried sketching, but like I told you, I suck at drawing. I can't do drawing. So sketching, I did it for a little bit. I would draw something and it wouldn't look anything like it. So I gave up on that.
But in your mind though, like, you know what you're kind of going for. So, and it's your own sketch. It's not like you're putting it out there.
Yeah. I definitely have sketchbooks of designs that I'm like, no one will understand this, and I will never show it to anyone. But I know what I'm thinking in my head.
No, like, I think that was one of the first things that I tried doing, but I saw that it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, what I will do is, so with silversmithing, it is easier to practice on copper.
Okay.
Because copper is really cheap.
Yeah.
So copper, I think it's just a few cents on the ounce, when silver it's $25 now. Yeah. So a lot of times I just use copper and I practice what I want to do, and then if I like it, I just start using silver. And it's not the whole process. For example, if I'm going to make a pendant and I'm going to use a few stamps, I will get the piece of metal, stamp the stamps that I want, and then I put the stone on top just to see what it looks like. Maybe take a few pictures, and I do a lot with the pictures. I take a lot of pictures of what I'm doing, just to compare. What does this look like? What could it be? Or if I made something already, I like having the pictures of all the angles and how it looks like on my hand or when I'm wearing it, just to see, okay, so I made this and it looks pretty, but it doesn't sit quite right how I wanted it to make it. So the next one that I'm going to make that is similar, I need to maybe do the band a little bit lower or a little bit higher, that kind of thing. So that's how I do it for the most part. And then it's kind of different for the different things that I do. For example, for belts, when I make belts and harnesses, I sit on the floor and I first do the waist part. I will put together the faux leather with hoops or with all the charms, and then I see how I want to do the chains. And then I put like charms on the chains, like on top on the floor, to see what it looks like, and I take pictures, and then
So you're kind of laying it out flat.
Yeah, I lay it out flat, and
Okay.
and then I have a mannequin, but I don't use it. I just use my mannequins when I take pictures and when I go sell.
Yeah.
But I sit on the floor and I do that on the floor.
Yeah.
And so, like, time-wise, are we talking days, weeks, hours?
I think it depends. It really depends. It's just, I normally can do things pretty quickly because I have an idea of what I've done already, and I don't like repeating a lot of the designs. There's a few things that I will make over and over again, but for example, the belts and the harnesses, I don't repeat designs because I want people to feel like it's unique. Even if those charms they can buy them online, I know those charms are not put together the way that I put it together.
Yeah.
So I remember, and I have the pictures of what I've done. I was like, okay, I like that in this one I put the bat over here, and then in this other one I did the chains this way. So maybe let's do those two things together, but it's not going to look exactly like the other ones that I did.
Yeah, there are a lot of options available in craft stores, online, Amazon, that everyone has access to. And the fun part about being an artist, being a creative, is you get to put your own touch on it. Yeah, the supplies, sometimes it is the same like little like gem or the same little like trinket or whatever that's going on it, but how you utilize that and how you put it is your art, your piece, and that's what makes it very unique. So people out there who are like, oh, everyone's doing it, like it's not yours. Like it's yours. It's not.
It's not anybody else's. Yeah.
And the thing is that, I mean, a lot of times people have to think about the price as well. For example, I like having really, really affordable things for people. I can buy a bag of charms and just put a hook on the charm and make it into a pair of earrings and sell it for $5. And I feel like that is very affordable for everybody. And yes, you can do that, but people a lot of times don't think how much they have to pay for the entire bag for wholesale, because what are they going to do with all the other charms? And I'm still trying to make it affordable for people. So that's why I'm just making it as simple as possible, taking as less time as I have to put in it, because otherwise I have to charge for my time too. And I have to charge for carrying it, storing it, taking it to the markets, putting it on the cards, all of that. And
it seems like your education is coming into play about the business side of things.
Yeah, I do all my accounting and I do all of that. So
Well, and it's we just.
But it's important.
Yeah, we just had our guest from the last episode on where she took the approach for her soap business as a business. It wasn't necessarily the passion that drove the idea of building the business. It was like, hey, I want a business first, and then like in the creative realm. And I think that's very smart for artists in this realm that are trying to grow into not just being a weekend vendor necessarily at shows and really just making some extra cash, but actually turning it into a business side where, hey, you could leave your 9 to 5 and potentially like support yourself through your business side of things. You have to understand the time that it takes to make these things, the amount of stuff. Like there are things that we purchase that make it very easy to repeat the process, and we get to do it much faster. And then what that does is it cuts our cost way down, so that when we go out to shows, like, hey, it's a $5 like set of earrings, or it's a $10 t-shirt or whatever, because we can. And it's a tough balance we have to find as makers and creators and business owners at this point to try and make sure we're not losing out on what we're doing as well, because if we're not making enough to continue supporting our craft, we're going to turn away from it, and that's not a fun time in the end of it.
Yeah, no, that's completely true. And the things that you have put all the investment into getting, maybe, yes, like let's give some numbers. Let's say maybe last year you guys made, I don't know, $10,000, but you spent $8,000 in materials. So what kind of profit you're gonna have then?
Yeah.
You're not having a lot of profit, but the following year you gotta think that maybe I don't need to spend that much, and I'm gonna have a much more profitable year. And those are decisions that you have to make when you are actually looking at it as a business point. That was for me last year. Last year I bought a lot of tools for silversmithing because I was doing it more, and I also cut down the hours of my work. I work part-time now at the place where I work at, my 9 to 5, because I wanted to first, take more time for school. Second, I wanted to actually dedicate more time to doing jewelry because I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's the hard decisions, and we always ask this to everybody who's on, is what was that kind of like push, that final like, hey, I'm going to take this leap to the next level of what I'm doing? What kind of gave you that kind of over that edge, I guess?
I think it's the aspect that I know it is tiring to go to markets, especially in the summer. It's horrible doing it in the summer.
Yeah.
But I found myself meeting so many people and learning about so many resources. And when I say resources, I mean, for example, if I have my own jewelry brand, I can go to somebody that makes pins, that it's local, that I still am supporting in my city to help me, kind of like push my business. Okay, I make jewelry, but I can give you a free pin because now I'm making enough that I can pay somebody local. I can pick it up locally. That's a cost that I'm not paying for shipping, and I'm also supporting the economy here in the city.
Yeah.
And I can also go to somebody that does screen printing to get, I don't know, a t-shirt made, that kind of thing. I think seeing the community aspect of it made me really think that I really want to do this. Even though I want to study and get my degrees, I want to do something that will also make me happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as an artist and finding that community, because I think a lot of artists start off going, I'm doing this solo in my basement, I'm doing it solo in my bedroom, whatever. Yep. And they don't realize that there are people out there that are just as passionate, just as like confused and like looking for that support like out there. I think that was the big turnaround for us, was when we started doing shows, because it was that, oh, look at all these cool people that we're meeting. All of these artists are making stuff, and a lot of it is passion over profit for a lot of these artists. And I think that's the best way to go, because eventually that profit grows, and it's not a short-term like return. It is a long-term investment that you will put in long hours. Mm-hmm. I mean, how you're sitting on the floor doing your pieces. You're sitting there probably watching TV for hours while you're doing this stuff, or horror movies. But it is one of those like positive returns, even though with all that hard labor. You say it. We're doing summer shows. Oh, we were just at this weekend. Yeah. It was 97 degrees on asphalt down a main street, and we're like, we loved it. It was like, we're exhausted, but we're also super excited to do the next one, because it was such a great, just the people you meet, the environment that's there, the energy from everyone else that is suffering just as much as you are with the heat, with the making their stuff. So it's awesome to hear that that's kind of in your forefront a little bit, and going forward with what you're doing. I love hearing that from other artists, because I feel it, and sometimes I don't necessarily hear it from others, because we sometimes don't have that conversation kind of thing. But with this past year, when we met at a couple other shows, you were saying you're looking at new markets and new endeavors and stuff. How do you go about finding those new places, and what's that worry or risk or like kind of thought process of like, hey, this one might be better, this one might not be? How do you go about kind of picking those out?
I think it really depends. And then that's one of the things that I like about the community aspect of it, because you talk to other vendors, and I think a lot of people are afraid of doing these kind of things because they feel that they're going to have a lot of competition. And when you actually start doing it, you see that it's not really competition, because you don't, like, whoever sets up next to you, even if they sell jewelry, they don't care if they buy from you or from them. Mm-hmm. Even if you have the same charm, like maybe the person that's next to me is selling the earring, like the charm with a hook, that's it. And I might be selling the charm with a bead and the hook. And you're going to have people who like different things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't mind if they buy from the other person, because it's still helping somebody in my community. And that's the entire community sense of it, because you can talk to somebody. You can say, hey, have you done this market? I think you might be a good fit for this market. If you don't want to do it, why don't you go check it out? And you tell them about it. And if they're like, you know what, I don't think it's for me, that's okay. You tried helping them, because if you help them, I feel like it's kind of, I believe, a lot of positive energy, and what you're putting out is going to come back to you. Yeah. Like, yes, maybe I didn't make a sale, but somebody else in my community made a sale. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. That's why, like, a lot of my stones, I do get them overseas sometimes, but I get them a lot from local people, because I understand that if I'm paying to somebody here locally, that money's going back to my community. Yeah. And that's one of the things that, I mean, as an accounting and finance student, I understand that. And a lot of people who are trying to get into it, sometimes they don't realize that. And it's not that competitive, really. People are trying to help each other and recommend each other markets. And if you say no, people are not going to get offended. They actually appreciate the help.
Yeah. Christy, just this weekend, she picked up some rocks from a local vendor. I don't know what her plans are with it. But that same vendor at the end of the show walked over and gave Christy another stone, because you guys had a conversation. And it was like, hey, take one of our like stickers or something you want for the booth.
Like trade kind
of thing. And she was like, just like, oh yeah, I'll just take one of these stickers. And Christy gave her the 3-pack of our dinosaur nugget stickers. And that smile and that like amazing community connection that we just had was super awesome, because she went away going, hey, she was just coming to do something nice, and we were doing something nice, and both of us all feel like, oh, we've just built a friendship now. Yeah. So anytime we now see that person at another show, oh, hey, those stickers are on your water bottle. Oh, those rocks, I made this kind of thing. And then it is incentivizing the community to continue growing with each other, because it's the all rising tide lifts all boats, like it's like one of those proverbs.
But it's true, like
right?
we support each other. And I honestly just had a conversation with her. I loved her stones that she had, because I like making jewelry for myself and, you know, a few pieces for the shop. But it's so great to make those connections and know that, you know, well, now I have her in mind when I think, oh, maybe I want to, you know, pick up another stone like this or like that. And, oh, I remember she sold stones and, you know, I gave her stickers. And maybe when she has her water bottle out and someone sees her stickers, she goes, oh, I got this from the great shop. You know, it's like just kind of building those connections, because you never know where they're going to lead. So
exactly.
I think you were one of the first people, like Derek said, we met at our first Punk Flea, which was our first show ever. But it was like so great to like see a friendly face and have someone who was like encouraging
was
us.
In his punk vest, and I believe he was wearing his kilt at that point also, because it was summer, it was hot, and then but it was that, oh hey, we fit in here, like we like you go to a show for the first time and you don't know, are they gonna like my stuff, are they gonna, and I think you guys purchased some punk patches from us, and I think you guys purchased some framed art from us.
Oh my gosh, I love that frame. You know what? He bought me framed bats.
The bats, right? Yeah.
And I use your guys' picture to take all my jewelry pictures.
I've seen it in the background of your phone.
Because I love it so much. I will put like a little box and I put my rings, or I put my hand in front of it and I record a video, because I love it. It looks so vintage. I know it's not vintage, but that's the thing. Like, because if I wanted to buy something like that vintage, it's gonna be so expensive. And I love that you guys do that kind of art so that you can make it affordable for people.
That's kind of what our whole goal was with all of it. But it's that memory that I have from the first time we've met, that I hope other artists have similar memories and have similar experiences when they are doing these kind of shows, because it's the community.
Well, and even if you hadn't bought something, like just having that like friendly face of someone who's like encouraging and like, you guys' booth looks good or whatever, like it goes such a long way. So I think that, like you said, the community aspect is really important.
Yeah, and I love that when you're a vendor as well, when you're at markets, sometimes, you know, you're there to make money, because you wouldn't know everybody's financial situation at the moment. Because yes, you could have a huge stock, but what are you gonna do if you can't doesn't have any liquidity? You know, like you can't really have any cash.
Yeah.
So maybe they have a lot of things, but they don't have any way to purchase anything from you at the moment.
Yeah.
So I love how we can trade, and a lot of times trading, you can show, hey, look at all the stuff that I got from these new friends that I have now, and that way you're helping other people. You know, you're showing something that somebody else might be interested in. One of your followers might be interested in something that you don't make, but you're facilitating them the contact to reach out to them.
Yeah, the conversations continue even after a show, because by posting it up somewhere, by wearing it out in public, and people, that conversation continues to happen. Like, where'd you get that? Oh, that's really cool. Oh, what stickers on your water bottle? All this stuff. And it turns into like, hey, there's this really good show. I don't know how many people we have told.
We tell everyone.
SLC Punk Fleet, because we love it so much. Every time we're there, it's so great. And the vendors and the uniqueness about what is there, you don't get that at other shows necessarily. And so, hey, go check this out. Go support local artists. And then, hey, we were at this other show. This was really cool. We met these cool people here. Go check them out. It's a chef up in Brighton at the show we do up there. Where, like, I just was having a conversation with him this weekend about his mozzarella, and bought more mozzarella from him because it's really good. And it's like, he didn't have his pizza dough, but that's another, like, hey, we'll get it from you next time. But it's that, hey, guys, there's this guy over here that has really good cheese. Go check out his cheese. Or, hey, there's this person over here that's selling really cool rocks. I just picked up these ones from them. Like, I had purchased 2 cameras from one of the vendors, and, like, I had it in the booth in my hand, and someone walked by with a camera, and, like, oh, that's a cool camera. And, like, oh, yeah, check out my camera. And then it's like, yeah, that person over there is selling cameras. Go check it out, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like, last time I was at my booth with my sister, and this girl wanted snake ring. And I didn't have one in her size, and it had some, but it didn't have what she was looking for. And then my sister's like, you know what? I just saw that Psychedelic Rocks has snake rings. I was like, oh, okay. And she told the girl where the other booth was, and she went. I don't know if she purchased, but she told her, like, because I feel like a lot of people feel like we're not gonna be like that, and at the punk rock flea markets, especially, everybody's like that.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't like my stuff, you know what? Why don't you go support somebody else?
Yeah. It's totally okay. Like, you came in, you like said it was cool, but like, if you go buy from that person over there, I'm super stoked that that person made a sale just as much as if I made a sale, kind of thing. I've talked to many of the other people we've had on the show. Sometimes it's just that, like, hey, this is really cool, and the walk away kind of thing. I go, oh, man, he liked my stuff, or she liked my stuff.
And a lot of people are not going to buy because it's not their style.
Yeah.
They genuinely like your stuff and they think it's really cool, but it's a lot for them. Like, especially my stuff, it's a lot for them. They feel like, oh, I don't want to wear a necklace with a bunch of blood vials.
I don't know if I could pull it off. I mean, but
yeah, but they can appreciate that artistic aspect, and they're like, you know what, I'm gonna take your card because I have a friend that would love your stuff. And I've had it where people message me, it's like, oh, my friend told me that you had this, but I don't see it here. And then I take a picture, it's like, are you talking about this? So, and like I said, what I like the most is the community aspect of it. I feel like people who are not in, like, they just go to markets, they would never realize that, but they are part of that community. They are helping build that community. Yeah. They might not be aware of it by seeing them. Like, there's so many people that I see all the time.
Yep.
So one time I missed a punk rock flea market. I didn't do it, and I went. I had an event that ended like in the middle of the punk rock flea market, and I went afterwards. I was like, I don't want people to think like that I'm just mad at them or something. I want to go and support. So, and I want to check out the other new vendors. And I went, and I had literally like 5 people come up to me and say like, you're here, where's your booth? I'm like, no, I'm just like looking around. I'm
just
buying.
Attending today.
Yeah. So, and then these people, and I just talked to them while they were purchasing from me in the past, and then that day they were like talking to me saying like, where were you?
Yeah. And that's cool because we've had the same like with repeat customers coming back, where like we just finished with Craft Lake City, and we had people are like, oh, you were here last year, I got this sticker from you, and it's still on my water bottle. I'm like, part of me goes, oh cool, it's still sticking, like great, we got the right material and everything.
I know, sometimes I get the same way. I'm like, sometimes people are like oh, I bought this ring from you. I'm like, oh
thank God.
Did it like, I'm like, did it break? Did it? And they're like, no, it looks cool. Like, great. I'm glad that it's not broken or anything.
I always like to ask with every maker that we have on, like, what's that tool? And it seems like you've just purchased last year some of your silversmithing tools. What's that tool that you have now that it's like, oh, it's a game changer for you?
I had this moth stamp, custom made, and everybody loves that moth stamp.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I make, and I try using it with very simple rings. I mean, I still make them handmade. They're sterling silver, but I try to price them at the lowest I can. And every time I make them and I put them out, they get sold quickly.
How do you go about making your stamps? Is that's through a third-party vendor somewhere online, or is there local?
They're from Canada.
Oh, from Canada. Okay.
Yeah, to be honest, I like being very ethical with my stuff.
No, that's fair. Yeah.
So, for example, when before I was buying stones locally, during the pandemic, I looked everywhere online where I could buy stones online that were sourced ethically, and it took me like a year to be able to find a place that would have a fair price, because I think a fair price is, it's still affordable but not dirt cheap, like, because where those things are coming from a lot of times. And then after I learned how ethical they were, I was like, okay, let's buy from them. So that's one of the things that I try looking into, trying to make it ethical, try to make it affordable, try to actually, like, same. I mean, I am paying in this community to go when I go at a local market, but you also can be affecting somewhere else positively or negatively.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And that is a thing that, like, we try to keep in our mind as well with some of the stuff we do, because we know we have waste and byproduct of stuff, and how do we recycle that? How do we utilize it, upcycle what we do? How can we, like, make our least amount of impression on the global epidemic that we have with, like, fast fashion and stuff like that? Like, how can we lessen that impact? Hot tip, though, and this is, last year we went to a thing called Green River Rocks, and there's a lot of geologists and fossil people that they go rock hounding all locally through Utah, and they have a vendor section there. And so I know we've looked at some of the rocks and stuff, but it is all local.
That's awesome.
Stuff.
And so same as the girl at Brighton, was a lot of her stuff was her and her I don't know, significant other maybe, find it all locally too. So I was like, oh, great, another local source.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you find those, you gotta.
Yeah.
And it is great to be able to do that. And I know not everybody is able to.
Yeah.
That's why it's like, if you can do it, great. And you can judge people.
No.
If there's a vendor that's selling something that you, as a more experienced vendor, because you have the knowledge and you've done the research, know that maybe wasn't sourced ethically, there's no shame in that person doing that, because they don't know. They might be doing that out of ignorance, and because they're not aware, because they're new, and that's totally okay. They have to make a living as well. So
and that's the part. That's kind of the part of the thing is like, hey, I've learned because we've been doing this for so long. Like I can make these choices. Also, like financially wise, like sometimes, hey, I understand. Like you're doing this with what you have available to you, and trying to make that next jump. I'm not going to hold it against you. Kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Like, I appreciate that there's a thought process in what you're doing, and like you are learning the next steps, because a lot of people, as they continue with their business, they realize, hey, I could be doing better, and they make those changes. And a lot of times, if they are not, they usually go to the wayside. They kind of just stop because they realize they're looking at it again, profit before the passion of it. And a lot of people who are putting in the time, putting in the passion behind it, they get to that point where they start learning those other options and start trying to figure out what their impact is as artists for this community that we're in.
Well, and customers kind of speak through what they buy as well. So
Yeah.
I think more and more people are becoming educated about how things are sourced and where they're coming from. So, if you have a product that is ethically sourced, you can advertise that to customers, and they'll be more likely to say, oh, that's really cool that you're getting these stones locally, or that you're getting, that you're ethically sourcing your materials. So
I think also being honest with somebody goes a long way with the
100%.
customers. If you don't know where you got it from, be honest about it. Like, for example, I do make a lot of the silversmithing that I sell, the sterling silver jewelry that I sell. Some of it I actually get it wholesale from the same supplier for the stones. But I do that because I want it to be affordable for people. Like if I were to make all of this amount of rings, it would take me time. And if you're thinking about it from a business, from a finance point of view, our labor in the U.S., our dollar is valued more. So our time, our wages is way more than other people. It's sad to say that, but that's why you're paying to. And that's why it's good to look at, okay, what is ethical? What is a good salary for somebody there? Okay, it might be a third of us, but it's still ethical and it's still a good salary for them. So you're going to pay that 1/3 and then sell it here for maybe 3 times, 4 times more. And that gives them income, very medium wage, and then that you're sourcing that. So those are the things. A lot of times when people come and look at my stuff and they're like, oh, like, did you make this? I'm like, no, I wholesale buy this so that you can give it to you for a much cheaper price. But if you like it and you want me to make something similar, custom made for you, I can do it. It's just going to be this other price, about this range. And if you have a specific budget that you want to work with, I can also do that.
And that's great business practice as well. Again, the business education is coming through. With all that, what is the piece of advice, like we like to ask everybody here, because people who are watching this might be thinking about, hey, how do I get into this? How do I do the next thing? What's that piece of advice you have for people who might be looking to get started running their own shop, like out of markets, or doing an Etsy store or any of that kind of stuff, and like creating their own art and selling it? What's that piece of advice you might have?
I think it would be, don't be afraid to ask. If you go to a market, why don't you talk to the person who's selling it to you? How did you get into it? I want to open a business. I have this idea, or maybe I don't have an idea. What do you think sells the best? People are not going to be mean and tell you, like, why don't you just do your own research? Most people want other people to succeed, especially as a small business owner. Like, you were in that position, and sometimes you wish that somebody would have told you. Yeah. Also, living in Salt Lake City, we have a lot of resources here. We have the Women Business Center. We have, for Latinx, we have Suazo Center. We have a lot of resources here and they're free, that they can help you. So asking vendors, and vendors can tell you where they went to get the information. Yeah,
I think that's great advice, because I think anybody walks into the booth and like wants to talk about like what we're passionate about, like, I'm going to talk their ear off, and they'll probably be like, oh, that was a bad idea to ask this guy a question. But
20 minutes later.
But definitely it comes through in your work. It comes through in who you are, with everything going forward. You are very passionate about this jewelry side of things, and we appreciate you taking the time to come and share it with not just us, but everyone here, and continue doing the shows that you're doing, and sharing that with everybody that comes through and enjoys your stuff. Where can people go and find out more about what you're doing?
So I mostly post every market that I do on Instagram. My handle is Graveyard Witch Accessories. That's where I'm going to post the new stuff that I have and the markets that I have coming up.
Okay. We'll make sure that's in the description below.
Yeah. So guys, again, support local artists. Go out to events, shops, local flea markets, local stuff, and you're going to meet awesome people like this. And so, is there anything else we missed? Anything we need to grab before we...
I don't think so. Is there anything else that you want to talk about that we didn't cover?
No, I think we're good.
Good,
Okay.
awesome. So again, guys, go check out what Alejandra is doing. There's some great stuff. Come if you're local to Salt Lake. Come see what she's doing at some of the different shows she's at. Subscribe, comment below. Tell us what your guys' favorite art style is and everything. But we'll see you guys next time on the next episode of Always Making. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.